In a stressed out world, peace of mind is such a precious commodity. Author Brian Tracy says it this way: set peace of mind as your highest goal and organize your life around it. Peace of mind is just one of the rich results of experiencing God's presence. We're going to look at that and much more in this Lesson 2. If you're like me, I used to think that peace of mind was like a luxury experienced only by the specially gifted, really spiritual people who didn't have, as busy a life and as many responsibilities as I did every day. I thought it was some kind of weird, passive art form, for those contemplatives and the easily introspective people, for those who enjoyed sitting in a corner with a cup of tea or hot chocolate and journaling pages of deep wisdom. I also thought mistakenly that peace was learning how to be passive. And you see, that wasn't going to happen with this type A driver personality. I totally misunderstood. You see, I learned that peace that comes from experiencing God's presence, it's a developed discipline that anybody can practice. Anyone can accomplish by His grace and our consistency. The kind of practice that knows ups and downs of success. That every effort actually builds a strong foundation. Experiencing God's presence is also known as practicing God's presence. You see, like anything else, practicing is the foundation. It's what we might call the laboratory where we learn. For most of us, really all of us, practice is essential for progress. Now, in our first lesson, I gave the assignment of working on experiencing what I called in that lesson, daddy time. That's where practicing God's presence begins. You see, you may have your own version of what your desire to imagine might be, or what you might be thinking about. The principle, though, is the same. It's getting quiet. It's about allowing yourself to imagine what it's like to be close to someone whom you care about. Just to be where they are, in the same room with them, in the same space, whether or not they're saying anything at the moment, and also allowing yourself to feel the emotions that take place when you're near the person you love and deeply respect. 1 John 1:1 gives some valuable insight here. John says this: that which was from the beginning, which we have heard, which we have seen with our eyes, which we have looked at and our hands have touched, this we proclaim concerning the word of life. Those are very relationship-revealing words. Much of religious Christianity has reduced Jesus to academic doctrinal beliefs, but John is stating something very dynamic in the words I just quoted. He says the eternal and invisible one that was from before time as we know it has become very visible, personable, very touchable, very knowable to our senses. He says it's that touchable and personal Jesus that we are proclaiming. Now, when John says concerning the word of life, he uses a Greek word that indicates completedness. In other words, John is saying that the complete picture of Jesus, the word of life, includes being able to know him by sensory perception or experience, as well as intellectual. Our relationship with the Lord is to be founded on good doctrinal understanding, but that alone is incomplete. We can know him. In fact, to accurately portray or represent him, we must experience him dynamically in full dimension of experience. In John 14:26, Jesus tells his disciples that the Father is sending the Holy Spirit to them. And Jesus puts it this way. He says, "In my name the Father will send the Holy Spirit." The disciples were very upset that Jesus was leaving them. That would only be because they really had gotten to know him, wouldn't you think? Love him tangibly. So in this particular instance, in my name is the same as Jesus was saying that the Father was sending the Holy Spirit in my place, in Jesus' place, to teach and to comfort and to deeply know. The Holy Spirit was going to manifest Jesus to them. And now, from their inner being, with each one of them, the manifest presence of Jesus, it's the inheritance to be potentially enjoyed by every disciple of Jesus. That includes you and me. Now, also, as we're considering this, let me throw in a note, free of charge. When we use the name God, as in experiencing God's presence, it's normal to think of God as the Father image. But where our English Bibles use the word God, it's from the Hebrew word Elohim. And you see, that's plural. That means Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. So experiencing God's presence is literally experiencing the presence of Father, Jesus, and Holy Spirit. You see, experiencing God's presence is having a tangible and faith-filled relationship with Father, with Jesus, and with Holy Spirit. Now, as we begin practicing this journey, let's talk about something that can discourage people. The lack of feeling or sensing anything. You see, the fact is that there will be days that it seems He's not there. And seems is the operative word here. He's always one with us. But on this spiritual journey, many times you will not feel or perceive anything. And you may wonder, what's wrong with me? Or what am I doing wrong? Or I guess I'm not spiritual enough. Although some sin that leads to a shipwrecked conscience can be the reason, that's very often not the case, in my opinion, for the sincere seeker. Again, personal sin can be mucking up your sensitivity. But can I just say, as serious as personal sins are, many have become too sin conscious in the church today. The cross of Jesus and His victory there needs to be the much greater focus. Temptations abound, but automatically assuming a sincere son or daughter of God has a sin problem, and that's the reason for spiritual insensitivity. Well, the way I look at it, that often distracts from the real issue of what's going on. Would you be surprised if I told you that a lack of sensing His presence is part of the growth process? In the natural world, seeds must be put into the ground before roots and shoots come forth, before we experience and enjoy the fruit of the harvest that we worked hard for. And so being a conscientious, diligent gardener or farmer, it has a very definite application to spiritual growth. Also, ocean tides can illustrate an important understanding in our pursuit of experiencing God's presence. Because it's like the tides. There is a spiritual life, ebb and flow. And when the spiritual tide is in, there's a clear manifestation, a more radiant perception we realize, and that's really encouraging. But when the tide is out, it's also another very important time in the process of growth. It's at the tide's out times that we have the opportunity to engage in a deepening trust that He is there. Our spiritual senses simply aren't responding in the same way as when the tide is in. When things feel flat, rejoice that walking by faith is pleasing to the Lord and is supporting your spiritual growth. Don't leave your rest and wonder why He's not with you in that moment. Instead, encourage yourself in the words of Jesus to Thomas. Blessed are those who have not seen, but still believe. Keep sowing seed, pulling weeds, and watering. You will experience His presence as the path that grows more real as each day passes. Now, the ultimate point is confident access to God's presence at any point and circumstance you find yourself in each day. and being able to boldly come before his throne of grace in your time of need. But that doesn't happen because of some special favor God shows us, shows the more spiritual. You will experience God's presence in your public life as you learn his presence in your private times. As I conclude this lesson, I'd like to share with you one of the multitude of ways that the Lord communicates with us by sharing a recent personal experience with you. Now, something alarming had happened that had the potential of piquing my stress meter. A letter had been delivered, but we hadn't been home when the original attempt was made, so the letter couldn't be retrieved from the post office until the next day. And that gave me plenty of time to internally sweat. Well, my wife and I committed it to the Lord's care. Then had to keep choosing to not worry about it. Isn't that the way it works? You can do that, you know, but we need to be exercising our faith chooser more than many of us are used to. We tend to automatically choose fear. That's the more easy route to go. We're more accomplished at that. Choosing faith in God's care for us takes more effort initially. We want more faith, we say. We fail to realize that our faith-choosing muscles are too often very flabby and need some serious exercise and nutrition. Anyway, later in the evening, as I was getting ready for bed, I had just lifted the faith chooser weights, and I suddenly realized I had a song in the back of my mind. I hadn't had that song in my mind for ages. I don't know the last time. It was, I'm going to lay down my burden down by the riverside. I ain't going to study war no more. Ain't going to study war no more down by the riverside. The Holy Spirit had recalled that song out of the recesses of my memory to give me the encouragement. It was a word from him that I could lay down my of living water and hold my peace and let the Lord fight my battle, because the victory is mine. That turned out that is exactly what happened, and the victory was mine. It is God's desired design that we experience his presence in all of life's transactions and facets. And that diamond is glorious. But don't be robbed of that which is rightly and righteously yours through Jesus. Now, in just a moment, I want to share a practical tip I think might help get you going in the morning or whatever time you use as your secret place with the Lord. But first, can I ask you a big favor that will help spread these lessons to others? If you haven't done so already, please hit that like button. That informs the Facebook and YouTube algorithms that this is worth watching, and it makes it accessible to more people. Also on YouTube, subscribe. Make sure to click the subscribe button as well so that you'll be automatically notified of new lessons. Leaving comments and questions also helps us know what you're thinking and wondering. Comments too. Like tell Facebook and YouTube that they need to increase the reach of this video lesson. So that'd be a big help to us. All right, now to that tip I promised. When I'm focusing first thing on experiencing God's presence, it's often difficult to start cold turkey without priming my spiritual pump. Although I've found instrumental music or nature sounds to be best for longer times of praying, I found it very beneficial to sit for a few moments and soak in a praise or worship song that stirs my heart. Some singer, words that are going through my heart, connecting with my heart, the song, letting the words encourage me. It really helps me for the feeling of peace and joy and confidence in his presence. And truthfully, I normally focus on more time, like at least a half an hour. But it isn't always necessary to spend an hour or more. Like I say, sometimes it ends up being 10 minutes, especially in the early learning stages. But the consistency is more beneficial than the amount of time. I'll link below some of my favorites. Please list some of yours in the comments as well. Well, that's our time for today. And so until next time, I'm Pastor Gary on Experiencing God's Presence. Thank you for watching.